Look at us, so very easy. My name is Laura, and today I'm going to quilt my Beatrice Potter quilt. I'll put a link in the description to this quilt when I did it, but what I'm looking at is a nice big border. The border has been pieced, but the inside, all of these blocks, it's one big panel. When we look at it, it does look like we have done a square with a border, and then some sashing. I want to turn this so that it looks more like I did do that piecing versus that flat look. And it's all about where we're going to stitch and the color of thread that we're going to use. So when we look close, this area does look like it's sashing in between these two blocks. But there's no shadow, there's no indent, as if we actually sewed these pieces together. So we want to create that shadow. We want to create that indent. And to do that, we're going to use a shadow color. And the shadow can be done with grays, taupes, depending on the project you have, will depend on that gray taupey color. It can even be a very light brown. What we're wanting is to give the appearance that we have done a seam. So we're going to be able to take our threads and try different colors to see what is going to work best. A thicker thread and a little bit darker than what you think you're going to need will work the best. Even though this is a gray, you can see how thin this is. It doesn't really show, or something like that is definitely going to make that definition. And the lighter doesn't really show up as well. So it's really all about testing your gray, taupe, brown thread to your pattern. And you can see where if I had put a white, it really just blends in. I'm not really going to notice it. It's not creating that shadow. I'm going to be using a white for quilting, but right now I need to make those definitions. On the back of the quilt, I do have a fun yellow, so I will be putting yellow in my bobbin. I'm going to have a walking foot on my machine, and I'm going to stitch right in the ditch all around these edges. I'm going to take those stitches and I'm going to make them larger. The larger stitch is going to give you a little bit more definition than some small tight stitches. So you can increase those sizes and stitch as if you were stitching in the ditch. So we can really see how that gray stitching has made it look like, well, we have pieced these pieces. It is really noticeable on that lighter fabric, but it looks just as nice in this area. And it really does highlight those cornerstones. Once we have created this illusion, we can quilt this quilt just like we would normally. If you wanted to do an all-over pattern, you could. The back will have those 2 rows of stitching, but the front will definitely look like you have pieced it. Or we can now do some fun quilting and quilt within each of these squares. So for myself, I am not going to really concentrate on that little second border. I'm going to make that part of that block. A lot of them are very light, so you really are not going to notice them. So my quilting is going to stay within this inside. That's going to give this border a little bit of a puffy look. So here is that first block, and I have done a stitch that is staying within this border. I did try to find one that was more of an outside quilting design versus the all-over effect, because I did want to keep those characters as clear as possible. If you don't want to do this curly pattern, you could do a little floral in between, a stippling, anything that is going to stay within this block. This is going to really establish sashing, borders, block. Now we get to work on the border. So I do have 2 pieced borders here, and for now I am going to leave those. I am going to stitch in the ditch all the way around this border right here. And to do that stitch in the ditch, I will be using my walking foot and a white thread. I don't need the shadow like I did here. So I'm just going to go all the way around. Once that line is done, I'm going to quilt this little border. And just the same as this, I am going to stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to do each piece and then come back up around. Stitch in the ditch here and there. So those rows have been stitched down. Next, I'm going to do this outside border. And I'm going to do just some curls coming along the outside. They're going to be in a little bit of a different angle. They're all going to be facing out. And I'm going to change the thread one more time to a light green and keep that yellow for the backing. So I did a little curl, went back, up, another curl, and over. So this is just a continuation of little curls all the way down the border. Now I do still have a big space here and at the side. So what I'm going to do is do a little chain block. Now you can do that free motion or you can use circles. So you do the circles going in the one direction, turn it around and do the circles going in the other direction. And when you do that, you get a little chain. So here's a little circle, and then I come back with a little circle. So I did a small one on the side because this is a little bit smaller than that other border. But I still just did these little half circles, turned around, and did other half circles. You can also get the templates if you do want to draw those on. And you can also just do it free motion, just make some marks and stitch. So there's a lot of different things that went into this. I did start with gray thread to give the appearance that this was pieced. I did do a machine embroidery that looked like the quilting for the block, which of course you could do by hand. And that was in a white. I have a border. It was done in the white. And I did ruler work. I stitched in the ditch around this little scallop and on those borders. And I did use the soft white. And for that last border, I did some free motion little curls. And for that, I used a green so that it would blend in. And for all of this, I did keep a yellow background because I did have yellow fabric for the back. The quilting is all done. I just need to trim this and put the binding on. It was a lot of fun to do, and I really didn't know what I was going to do until the next step. I knew I wanted to give this the illusion that it was pieced together. After that, I was just going and doing one step at a time. Changing the color threads and changing the different techniques really just made this a very well blended quilt. There's not one design that sticks out more than the other, and that's really what I wanted. I really wanted the fabric to have the focus, not the quilting. And it definitely was a lot of fun to do. I'll put some links in the description as always, and thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. And be sure to make every day a Sewtacular day. Bye for now.